The Rewind
Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to Sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to the Rewind Sports 60, 8:28 a.m. at our WCPT studios. We are broadcasting live, and we're also streaming on Facebook as well on the Rewind Sports 60. So please join in on the conversation. Give us a call, 773-763-9278. And what a week it's been in sports. I'm your host, Lauren Cox, and I'm here with my phenomenal crew. Let me get right to it. I want to introduce Dan Marver, the marvelous one. How are you, Dan?
Great. I'm great, Lauren. Hi, how you doing? You know, I got a little confused today because I was going to go over to Wrigley Field for the ESPN Sunday night game because I had tickets for it, and I realized that I can't go. Darn it. But there was some interesting stuff. I was watching this overtime game just now where the Heat lost to the Bucks. The Bucks are about to be eliminated. They had the best record during the regular season.
Yes.
In the East, and I think overall, and they were minutes from being eliminated. But Jimmy Butler couldn't bring it home. And then another interesting thing in tennis, for you tennis fans, you know, Novak Djokovic, number one player in the world, in the U.S. Open, which is being played at its normal time with no fans. He hit a referee, a linesman, with the tennis ball and was kicked out of the tournament, disqualified. So I thought that was kind of newsworthy that happened today. So those are a couple of big things today. And of course, you got baseball and hockey and everything else going on. It's crazy. They're going to have the playoffs for baseball, hockey, and NBA all at once this year in October.
Insanity. Yeah. Absolute insanity. And, you know, this whole dynamic with COVID-19 and how it's impacting sports.
Sure.
It's still business as usual because, you know, we've got a lot of cool things that happen in the NFL in terms of Cam Newton actually being named as the starter for New England. What were your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, I think that it kind of made sense. I mean, he's the most experienced quarterback that they've got now in terms of the players that they had left. I mean, and of course in Chicago there was a decision made too that I'm sure we're going to discuss about quarterback. But Newton, I mean, I thought he might get the nod on that after all because his competition was not quite as experienced as him, and he's got some experience behind him, and you know, he's done well in the past, so you know, he might be able to bring New England back to where they were when they had the GOAT.
Absolutely, and so the debate is, and got to get your take on this in terms of who has more to prove. New England with Bill Belichick or Tampa Bay, because you know he just got Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette just signed running back, former Jaguar, just signed a deal with Tampa Bay. So he's like loaded on all fronts now.
The thing I'm most amazed about is that they're going to be playing games starting Thursday. I didn't think it was going to happen. I mean, that's the most amazing thing to me. You're going to have Kansas City and Houston. But I think that if things go, you know, and they're able to complete the season, I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa wins their division. And New England's in not that strong a division, so they still might be able to eke it out with the Jets and Buffalo and Miami. You know, I think they still might be able to win the division and make the playoffs. And I think Tampa's a good shot in the south of the NFC too, because you know they've got Atlanta, who's pretty good, and Carolina and New Orleans. So I mean, I think each of them might be playoff teams this year.
Absolutely. And so who do you think has more to prove? Belichick
Well,
or Tom?
I mean, I think that Belichick's personality is such that I don't think it would. He feels like he's anything to prove, you know, because he's kind of he's not that humble a guy. So I mean, in that respect, I think that it'll be okay. But it will be more, to me, it'll be more interesting to see how Tampa does. I think New England will still be okay because of their weak division. But I think Tampa, you know, it will be interesting to see what happens with you know the GOAT in Tampa.
And then also, too, New England lost a lot of players.
Yeah,
I think like 6 of their players opted out due to COVID-19. How has this impacted the football from your landscape? I thought I would have heard of like more players being tested positive. I haven't heard much about like what's going on. They don't have bubbles, right? So
I mean, the bubbles have worked well with the NBA and the NHL. I mean,
absolutely.
But there's no bubbles in the NFL, so that's
and even
the
at my
concern.
son's school, they got a bubble, and everything is all good. So
yeah, so I mean that's the concern. I mean, you're going to have people opting out, and there may be even more, and hopefully there won't be any cases. So that will be a big factor in the season. So they're starting, like I say, on time Thursday. Kansas City and Houston are playing a game on Thursday night. So off we go. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And so, of course, we've got to talk about the biggest news coming down from Chicago and the Bears. The Bears have decided to go with Mitchell Trubisky as their starting quarterback. He edged out the win against Nick Foles. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he may have benefited from there being no preseason games, to be honest with you. If there had been preseason games, it might have gone a different way if there had been actual competition, because I don't know how they made the evaluation up in Lake Forest. I have no idea, but I don't know. I honestly don't know how long they will last. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it doesn't last more than a few weeks, but he gets the nod now, and that's definitely fodder for the sports writers this week. No question about it.
They said that Mitch worked really hard during the off season, and he had the advantage, obviously, of playing with these receivers for years and running backs, and they said that he was doing a lot of off-season work with them and really putting it in. Do you think that competition with Nick Foles breathing down his back, do you think that was motivation or what?
It might have brought Foles knows the system too, obviously from the coaching perspective. He knows that the Bears system. So it's hard to say without having to be able to watch them in preseason games as to what exactly happened. But it could be that his experience with the players and the off-season preparation made a difference. But with my own eyes, I can't see, so I don't know. You know what I mean? It's hard to say. Yeah,
absolutely. And then a lot of talk too, because obviously the Bears decided not to take Mitch up on that 5th-year option. He didn't agree to that, but Deshaun Watson, the Texas quarterback, as we know, he agreed to a 4-year, $160 million extension. Also, we know that huge deal that Patrick Mahomes got earlier in the year, $503 million for 12 years. Not chump change, right? Chump change. And both of those quarterbacks were picked before your beloved Bears quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, whom they didn't even exercise the 5th-year option.
After him, not before him, after him.
Well, yes. What do you say about that? I'm just speechless.
Obviously, salary and whatnot should be based on performance, and so it's clear that the Mahomes and Watson have performed better. So they deserve more money in that respect, wouldn't you say?
Jesus. Yeah. The Bears have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, like in I Love Lucy. You got to explain to do.
We want to hear it. Jerry, are you
Jerry's
I'm good.
Are you back in business, brother?
Back in business.
All right.
Well, I'm trying to hang in there as best I can.
Okay, well, we have the amazing Jerry Riles with us. The amazing one, Jerry. What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Give us the lowdown. What were your thoughts on the things that we talked about? The New England, Tampa Bay, the Bears. A lot going on.
Yeah, Cam Newton. There, it's. This guy's got a lot to prove. There's no question about it. He had a lot of naysayers, a lot of doubters out there that feel that he is not going to play at the high caliber level that he has shown in the past. New England Patriots believe that he brings something definitely to the table, and if it's the system, this guy's going to have a heck of a year. Now, first and foremost, we have to say, let's pray that we have an entire 17-week schedule this year. Let's just pray that the flu season and the second phase of the COVID-19 coronavirus does not swoop in and just knock everything out the box. But if we're on pace to go throughout the regular course of the season, I'm expecting some big things from Cam Newton and the New England Patriots. Excuse me real quick.
Absolutely.
You're all choked up about this.
I'm all choked up. I don't know, but I'm looking for some big things as far as the National Football League is concerned. Now, when you bring it all home, Lauren, and you touched on it as far as 2 NFL quarterbacks that are getting paid big time. Obviously, everyone knows about Patrick Mahomes and the 10-year deal. He got $455 million. And, of course, coming off the Super Bowl, the MVP, the whole 9 yards. But now Deshaun Watson, as you talked about, Lauren, just gets a deal. And he signs a 4-year deal, guaranteed $111 million over the next 4 years. And the kid was choked up. He was really choked up because he said where he comes from in Georgia that a lot of kids don't make it out. And he made it out.
Did he ever?
And for the franchise to have the faith in him and believe in him and invest in him the way that they have, it really, really touched them to the core. And he let his emotions come out.
He earned it.
He certainly did.
How much guaranteed was it?
$111 million guaranteed.
Too. Are you kidding me?
But you know
I'll let my emotions show too. $111 million guaranteed. Is that like a record?
No.
Well, how much?
Mahomes is the record.
How much guaranteed did Mitch get? Did Mahomes get?
See, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Like he was crying. He was crying. Bear fans are crying. Bear fans are crying because those 2 quarterbacks were passed over for the great Mitchell Trubisky.
Somebody needs to be fired right now. They need to be fired right now.
Whoa. Those are fighting words, Lauren Cox.
I'm serious.
Those are fighting words.
Not one, but 2 of them ended up being once in a lifetime quarterbacks.
Did you hear Lauren Cox on the Rewind Sports 60 on WCPT? She said somebody up there in Halisol needs to be fired. Listen, it's unbelievable. These 2 guys, they were passed over for Mitchell Trubisky. They were passed over. Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears did not pick up his 5th option year. They said, no, the jury is still out. They brought in Nick Foles to compete for the quarterback position.
And Nick was acting like he was going to get it, too.
Well, he should have gotten it, but the Bears played it. The Bears are playing it smart. And it's unfortunate because the Bear fans, we have to endure all of this. The Bears are giving Mitchell Trubisky every ounce of breathing air that they can to justify that move. They said we've got to name him the starter because we drafted this kid. Yeah. So we have to have him start and give him one last chance. And Nick Foles is just sitting there chomping at the bit. Go ahead, do what you got to do. Because if we get this season through, I'm the starting quarterback for your 2020 Chicago Bears.
How many times are we going to have this conversation, Jerry? I feel like deja vu. I've heard you say this.
It's over. Lauren, it's over. Turn out the lights. The party's over. Hey, listen, I expect Mitchell Trubisky to come out game busters. Let me say this to you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the fastest hour in sports conversation. Yours truly, Jerry Riles, Lauren Cox, and the marvelous one, Dan Marver. When camp opened up a few weeks ago, Matt Nagy was asked the question, well, how does Mitchell Trubisky look? And this is when you can read between the lines and you read between the coaches speak. He goes, well, I'm not really sure. I really haven't had a real chance to take a look at Mitch, but he looks like he's made some type of improvement. I'm not really sure, so I don't want to say much about it. Let me tell you something. He was saying that this kid is done. This kid is done. I don't care how many, I swear to you, I don't care how many reps he's taken off season. I don't care how much film study he's watching. There's no substitution. There's no substitution for the real deal. And for your head coach to tell the media, I'm not really sure. I can't tell if that's BS. Lauren, you've been with the show for over a year now, about a year or so, right? Mm-hmm. Marvelous. You've been on board for some time.
I'm vested.
Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If someone's been a part of your program, your organization, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you certainly can tell if that person has progressed or not. You can tell. Yeah. This kid has not, I swear to you, and I told the great David Kaplan, the hardest working man in sports here in Chicago, I'm closing in on you, Cap, though. I told him, I said, hey, man, this guy, he's reached his ceiling. He's reached it. Kaplan said, no. Look at the numbers between Drew Brees when in his first 3-4 years in the league, and no, there's no comparison. Let me say this to you. I'm a Buckeye. I love the Ohio State Buckeyes. I bleed scarlet and gray. I don't want anybody to find out because I'm not looking to bleed, but this guy is Mr. Ohio in the state of Ohio.
Who?
Yeah, that's the question. Hey, Lauren, that's a great question.
Who are we talking about?
Richard Trubisky.
No, he's not.
If he was that dynamic,
He's not from
he
Ohio.
would have been. I'm sorry.
Trubisky went to North Carolina by the state, didn't
he? If he were, that's my point.
Okay,
If he were that good, he would have been playing on the roster with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Okay.
If he were that good, he would have been on the roster of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Well, obviously he's that good because he's the quarterback and he won his starting job.
Listen,
so
Bear fans,
don't that say that he's
Bear
good?
fans, and I want him to get the most out of his opportunity. I really do. But when you signed Deshaun Watson to a 4-year deal, when you signed Patrick Mahomes to a 10-year deal, and our Ryan Pace, the GM of the Bears, passed him up, there's, like you said, there's some splaining to do, Lucy. There's some splaining to do. It doesn't make any sense. And let me tell you something. We're the media. We're the fans. We haven't played the game. So maybe they see something that we don't see.
Oh, no.
Maybe they see something that we don't see. But I'm here to tell you. I am here to tell you. This guy, Mitchell Trubisky, he's reached his ceiling. There's nothing else left for him. When you have Patrick Mahomes tell the world after he won the Super Bowl as the MVP that he just started to learn defenses in the National Football League in week 8 and 9, that's a scary thought for Bear fans and Mitchell Trubisky. And I wish him all the best because I'm a Bear fan first and foremost. And I died with the Bears as far as football is concerned and sports are concerned here in this great city of Chicago that we live in. Mm-hmm. But the guy he's not the quarterback for the future as far as the Chicago Bears are concerned. And the old Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was on with us back in April, said, and you remember this, Lauren, she said, hey, he's not going to the Hall of Fame. He's not going to the Hall of Fame. So, you know what? I wish Mitchell Trubisky all the luck. I wish the Bears, I think the Bears would do halfway decent because the defense, I think they've done a heck of a job. And let's hope that Matt Nagy has added a little bit more extra in his playbook. And he can be a little bit more versatile as far as the play calling is concerned.
Yes.
But with
Drop
David
those
Montgomery,
5 million plays.
with David Montgomery going down, that's going to hurt the running attack. But it's going to be interesting to see if we can get through this 17-week schedule as far as the National Football League is concerned. What is going to happen with this Bears football team? Ladies and gentlemen, she's Lauren Cox. He's the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. We're going out to our TR60 hotline. And he laced him up for your beloved Chicago Bears way back in the day, and he's a product of the Chicagoland area. He played linebacker for the Chicago Bears from 78 to 1982, the era that I really enjoyed football, when the great Walter Payton laced him up and came on to the Windy City and turned the whole franchise upside down and showed that this is why we are the best as far as the league is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, he's on our TR60 hotline right now. He is Bruce Herron. He is a friend of the program. Bruce, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Hey, man, we that's a tricky question. That's a tricky question because Deshaun Watson just got paid. The Brinks truck just backed up to him. Now, we know what happened with Patrick Mahomes, but the guy that the Bears moved up one spot to take, they didn't even pick up his 5th-year option, man. So that's a tricky question to answer us. How we doing? We still don't know yet, man. How are you?
We're doing bad.
Well, you know what? I mean, truth be told, considering what Mahomes got, I think Deshaun Watson's underpaid. I'm telling you. I mean, man, the kid he's an unbelievable talent, man. He really is. He was that way in college. Now, for the Bears to have just forgot about what this kid did in college and go after Mr. Trubisky, who only had 1 year of college experience as a starter, to make him the first quarterback chosen. I'm telling you, man, it's unbelievable. I don't know. What can we say?
And that's the thing, Bruce. That's the thing.
Here's the deal about both of those quarterbacks.
Okay.
Both of those quarterbacks, throughout the time that they've been in the NFL, they've had some top-tier receivers around them. And I'm not so sure Mitch Trubisky has had that, but, I mean, that's beside the point because, truth be told, I am not a Mitch Trubisky fan. I really am.
Why?
I'm not. I mean, I don't know how you can be. I mean, even with the receivers we have, I've seen passes underthrown, overthrown. I've seen passes thrown right and left. Seen passes many times thrown to the other team. You know, and it's just and you look back at the draft and you look at all of the talent that came out at the quarterback position, and the Bears moved up and gave up a number one pick to move up one spot to take this kid. And I tell you, at the time that they took him, I thought it was, I couldn't believe it. I thought they were moving up to take someone like Deshaun. I really thought they were going to take Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
they made Trubisky their pick. I just, I more than scratched my head. I turned the TV off, man. I couldn't take it anymore.
And that's the thing, Bruce. You played during a time where, obviously quarterback is probably the most important position in all the sports. And so you've had your fair share of playing against some great quarterbacks, obviously watching some great quarterbacks, and knowing the mentality of quarterbacks. So for you to scratch your head, and we've seen some crazy things happen on draft day. There's no question about it. We've seen some crazy things happen on draft day. But for this, man, this was mind-boggling. There's no question about it. So as far as the announcement of Mitchell Trubisky being named the starting quarterback leading into the 2020 season, what does that mean to you from a football perspective?
Have they actually decided that Mitch was going to be the starter?
Yeah, next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you, when during the off season, when we all knew that the Bears are going to bring in another quarterback to compete with Mitch, and then they made Nick Foles the choice, I should say. I was disappointed because I just felt like, okay, they're trying to for some reason satisfy the public, the big, the large base of Bears fans. And there is Cam Newton sitting out there who has proven time and time again, man, this guy is a talent, just a talent. And not to even consider him, oh my goodness, man. I thought when they made Nick the choice, I just said, you know what? They don't want real competition for this guy. They really don't want real competition. And it was disappointing.
Yeah, very disappointing.
But at the same time, I'm not saying Nick Foles doesn't have what it takes to be successful. I mean, he's proven that he can take a team. But the other thing that I heard the other day watching ESPN was that one of the commentators were saying that, you know what, they thought all along that Mitch Trubisky was going to be the Bears starting quarterback when the season began. Because Nick Foles has when he's been really successful, it's because he's come from the bench to replace the starter, whether it was through injury or whatever it was. And then he's taken the team and then become very successful. But as a starter, he hasn't been all that successful. And so, I listened to that and I said, well, maybe there's something to be said about that.
No, I think there is something definitely to be said, behind that, and it makes sense. I mean, I tell you, if you've been following the game long enough, if you've been involved in the game long enough, whether a player, a coach, or whatever the case may be, I truly believe you can read between the lines. And the Bears almost had no choice but to name this kid the starter because they put all their eggs in this one basket. They, meaning Ryan Pace. Matt Nagy inherited him, and so they're giving this kid every ounce of opportunity to say, okay, he is a serviceable quarterback on this level. Now, the insurance policy comes in Nick Foles. If Mitchell Trubisky does not succeed, if he goes down, if he gets hurt, like you said, and like they said on the network, that you know what? Nick Foles is great coming off the bench to take the team over from, the step from one point to the next. So it certainly makes sense. Bruce Herron on our TR60 hotline, former Chicago Bear linebacker, played with the Beloved for 5 years, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60.
Hey, Bruce, Lauren Cox here. So I wanted to ask, how are you? With everything that's going on, with the police brutality, the injustice, and the civil unrest, the players across the league, the NFL and the NBA, even the MLB, are really standing up and kind of voicing their concerns regarding everything that's happened. Not sure if you heard the Beloved's former coach, NFL legend Mike Ditka, in his comments when he told TMZ Sports regarding the players, the NFL players potentially kneeling, if you can't respect our national anthem, actually the NBA as well, if you can't respect our national anthem, get the hell out of the country. That's the way I feel were his statements. He was actually on the show last week, and we were able to ask him and kind of pick his brain in terms of what was your mindset? What was your mentality? So what were your thoughts? I don't know if you heard, but if you had, and now that hearing it, what are your thoughts on his take, stating that's the way he feels regarding players?
So let me ask you a question before I answer that. When you guys had him on your show, what was his response to that?
He said that's the way he feels.
Yeah, he stood behind it, and basically he was saying that the players make, he to me, kind of diverted the issue, because he was like, the players make so much money, just focus on football, focus on the fact, and in NBA, focus on the fact that you're making all this money, and, the country, basically saying the country afforded them not these opportunities, and they should shut up and play, pretty much is what I got out of it. But he hung up on us, so we don't know for sure. He hung up on us at a certain point. Or
his battery went there.
He hung up on us, Bruce, and he, like Lauren said, he stuck to his guns and said, hey, you know what? Like she said, he said, hey, these guys are making a hell of a lot of money. They need to enjoy it and appreciate it, because this is the only place in this great country that we live in that you're going to make this type of money. And so they need to understand that and stick to it and appreciate it and enjoy it. That was his comment, and then he hung up.
That's hurtful. That's really hurtful. It's hurtful because you're saying that if an individual is playing in the NFL, that the only thing he should be concerned about is playing football. Are you kidding me? I mean, these guys have families, they have kids, they have mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, cousins all over the place, and they have friends. And so for an individual, just because the nature of your job, whatever that job is, say the guy was a
truck driver,
a banker.
Let's say he works at a grocery store and he bagged groceries. So this guy should concentrate on bagging groceries and forget about everything else. I mean, that's these guys' jobs. I mean, yeah, it's entertainment, but yeah, that's their jobs. So anybody who has a job, they need to shut up and just go along with the program? No. You know what? This stuff has been going on in our country for far too long. I mean, far too long. I grew up in South Texas. In a little town called Victoria, down between Houston and Corpus Christi near the Gulf. And I experienced, my family, we all experienced racism. But, I was talking to a buddy of mine last week, and he played professional basketball for a year or two. I think he played over Europe for a couple of seasons. But we were talking about this, and he said, as athletes, we had a pass. And I did too. I had a pass. Me and my brothers, we were all good athletes coming up through junior high and high school. We all played football. I played football, baseball, basketball, ran track, and I was all district in basically everything, because I was just a good athlete. I was a running back in high school and a quarterback. I didn't make it to become a linebacker until my sophomore year in college, where I grew and gained a lot of weight and got strong and stuff. But we had a pass. I mean, when you grew up in the South or grew up in areas where racism is really prevalent, and if you're a good athlete, you and your family, you kind of get a pass because they want to make sure that you're taken care of. They want to make sure that you're given every opportunity, And so, and I tell you what, it's really hurtful for me to hear that about Mike Ditka, because I have a good relationship with Mike, and I've never had the conversation about racism in sports or anything like that with him. It's always been, hey coach, how you doing? I'm doing fine, Bruce. What you been up to? If I need to get an autograph from him on something for a charity that I'm working with, I can always call him and meet him at his country club or someplace, or just send him a ball or a jersey or something and get that autograph. And so that's pretty much the conversation. But to hear him come out and say that, I think that is not very bright.
Yeah, and I was disappointed. There were some people who are on both sides of the fence. Some people said we knew that Coach Mike Ditka was this type of person, this type of character. Others said they were surprised as well that he took the stance that he took. And I mean, I understand, Bruce, and you played back in the day, where players overall, just, they did their job and they did what they were supposed to do. They collect their paycheck and then they go on about their business. But this generation now is saying, hey, you know what? We got to pay attention and we got to give credit to Colin Kaepernick. But they say, hey, we got to pay attention to, like you said, our brothers, our cousins.
Right.
Our nieces,
right.
And because this
or
is
them, because some of them have been experienced. Michael Bennett,
right?
Sterling, both. I mean,
it's affecting them just as. And they say, hey, wait a minute, this is the most. We've got some power here, and so we have to utilize it. And I think some of the old school way of thinking is like, no, that's not the protocol. That is not how this is supposed to work. But this new breed of athlete is saying, you know what? Maybe that worked back in the day, but this is a new day, and we're going to turn the channel on this one, and that's what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, when people like Mike make comments like that, saying that guys need to concentrate on playing football and you're disrespecting the flag or you're disrespecting the anthem. Well, damn, the anthem, when you listen to the entire anthem,
mm-hmm.
you know what? It's a detriment to black folks. It doesn't, the Star Spangled Banner doesn't. Man, I'm telling you, you listen to all the words of the Star Spangled Banner, and I'm telling you, it makes you sick. It turns your stomach. It turns your stomach. Have you guys ever listened to the whole thing?
Of course.
Yeah. That's known.
You're absolutely right. And here's the thing. It's change is always difficult, and it's challenging. And those who have been in
change is only difficult. Change is only difficult when it appears that it's taking something away from people of a white race.
Mm-hmm.
When they feel like they've got to give up something in order to change, in order to accept change, they ain't gonna be against it. They just fight against it for the most part. Not everybody's like that, because I've got some rock solid friends that are white that they support this thing and they understand fully where I'm coming from. I tell you, it's really disheartening. And then you talk about Brian Urlacher. You know what? I've always respected Brian Urlacher for his tenacity, his talent, because we went to the same University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, and the guy was a beast in college. He was a strong safety, and came to the NFL. They made him a middle linebacker, and he just took over and he performed. But for Brian to be in a locker room every single day of his life with black and brown and white guys, and having to attach, go shoulder to shoulder with each other, and to get out and perform and depend on each other and to hang out with each other, and Brian has a black son, and for him to it's it's just I'm trying to be respectful. when I talk, but sometimes it's just best, when you just, say how you feel and let it go. So I respect Brian for the ball player that he was, but I mean his words that comes out of his mouth when it comes to Black Lives Matter is just disheartening.
Hey, Bruce, this is Dan in the studio. I guess sometimes people should actually keep their thoughts to themselves in these times. These are tough times. But weren't you in the forefront of another issue regarding concussions a while back? I was reading. Wasn't that an issue that you were concerned about?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Me and I think 2 or 3 other former NFL players, we teamed up and hired this one attorney, and our cases were filed. One of the first cases filed, and my wife, who's a Cook County judge, she was the one who reached out to this attorney, and he took me on as a client, and we were the first ones. We were one of the first ones to file a case with the concussion protocol.
Yeah,
and I tell you, that too is a problem because the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, when the case was filed and the judge we all felt, and I personally felt that every player that played the game, when that case was settled, we all should have got a check of substantial dollars, whether we had CTE or not, because the league had data and proof that concussions was causing brain damage back in the 70s. And they never, ever allowed that information to filter down to the players.
Wow.
So the whole time I played as a linebacker, playing in the Buddy Ryan system, or playing in any system in the NFL, linebackers and defensive players were taught when you take on a block, put your face mask in their number. So we were taught to lead with our heads, regardless. And when I went through all the examinations, one of the doctors asked me, he says, "Well, how many concussions did you have?" Well, hell, I don't know. They didn't even call it concussions back then. They told you got a ding, or you got got your bell rung. You sit out for a few minutes, and the trainer come over and break one of those little tabs of smelling sauce, and it burns your nose, and you gag a little bit, and you drink some water, and he'll have you sit there for a few minutes and come over and show you 3 fingers, 4 fingers, 5 fingers, 1 finger, 2 fingers, and and all in the same sequence, 2, 3, 4, 5, and whatever number you come up, he'll say how many fingers, whatever number you come up, it was right, so it's time to go back in the game. I mean, you're ready.
Amazing.
Yeah, I would be on the sideline and say, "Where's Harris? Where's Harris? Hey, I need Harris in here." But Freddie was his trainer, and he said, "Freddie, where's Harris? Coach, he's not ready yet." God dang it, Freddie, get his ass ready. I need him in here. And said, "You ready to go?" I said, "Yeah." Shit, we were trained, but shit, you're not supposed to get hurt. You're tough. You're a football player. You break an arm, you break a leg. Shit, put some tape on it and get back in there.
Yeah, and that's, Bruce, thank you so very much for painting a vivid picture for those who may not be aware and understand the game that was played back in the day. And that's the thing about it, is the fact that as a young kid watching this and hearing this, you wanted to emulate that. And so you play at the high school level, the collegiate level, and, your mentality is, hey, in order for me to make it to that level, these are the sort of things that I need to do and I have to do so that I can succeed. I know, I won't give his name, but there was a former Bear player on the defensive side of the ball who told me when he was younger, Bruce, he said he would put a helmet on and he would bang his head up against the wall so that he could prepare himself to play in the National Football League. And, of course, he made it to that level. Jeez. But the mentality that went
into... Did this guy play for the Bears?
He sure did, but I won't give any names or anything like that. But
I know his name.
Okay. Well, we'll keep it. We'll keep
it. He was a defensive back. Every time we made it, every time we were in on the tackle, you better stay down low.
Yeah.
Because that missile was going to come flying by any minute.
Exactly. And so, I get the mentality because I lived a part of that mentality and understand it. But when you look back on it, it wasn't good and it wasn't right. And now a lot of players, and I told Mike Dicker this, I said, hey, Mike, you're in the forefront. You're the spokesperson for those players who are retired and they are suffering, whether it's a mental, physical, or both, deteriorating conditions. I said, it's the same way as Black Lives Matter and these ball players speaking up for the black and brown community because they don't have a voice. So you're doing exactly what they're doing, but on a different scale and a different level. And I don't know if it resonated with him or not, but that's where we are as far as this is concerned. Bruce, can we hold you for a minute? And I want to bring on somebody. You may be good, happy to hear from, folks. This is the fastest hour in sports conversation. This is the Rewind Sports 60 on WCPT 820 AM. It's Jerry Riles, Lauren Cox, and a marvelous one, Dan Marver. Let's go back out to our Tier 60 hotline. We got Bruce Herron on one, and we got the great number 8. Well, I loved this guy when I was a kid, and I even love him more so that he's on the line right now. Ladies and gentlemen, he's number 8 in your program, but he's dear and near in our hearts. He's the great old Vince Evans on our TR60 hotline. What's up, Vince? How are you?
Hey, doing well. How's everybody doing?
Say hello to Bruce Herron.
Take that bass out your voice, man.
Vince, say hello to Bruce Herron.
What's up, Bruce?
What's
up, my brother? Doing well. Sitting back here in this Southern California heat, man. We're looking at 115 in the shade.
Oh, my goodness, dude.
Hey, Vince, this is Dan in the studio. Don't you wish that you were playing this era?
I've been watching news about all those fires, man. That's got to be sad. That's tough. That is tough.
Well, it is, and it's kind of common news for Southern California, unfortunately. But during this time of the year, it's dry and it's hot, and it's almost like we've grown to expect that you're gonna get these fires this time of the year. But all they're doing right now is just really trying to contain them because you got wind plus heat plus these fires, which are just out of control. So hopefully they won't last too much longer.
Wow. Sad,
but how you guys doing, man? It's so good to connect. It's been a while. Bruce, I spoke with him maybe a couple of weeks ago. He and my brother and Otis Wilson, I think, were playing golf together, and they just finished their round and had a chance to visit with him. We every time I think about Bruce, he brings a smile to my face because his personality is just he's so engaging and just has one of those infectious laughs that even if and he tells a lot of jokes. The thing about Bruce is he tells a lot of jokes, but they're not really funny. They're not really funny. They're not really funny jokes, but because he laughs with such hysteria, like it's the greatest joke in the world, you can't help but laugh.
Oh my gosh!
Oh man! Hey, listen, guys. When Benny and I were with the Bears, everybody in the locker room, practically everybody in the locker room, had a nickname. And you know what? They always called me Mr. Bruce because I was a upstanding citizen. Mr. Bruce.
Oh, stop it right now.
You agree with that one?
He's getting ready to go into that mode.
He had a nickname. He was like all world. He was like head. He was anything because he had this big old gigantic head. And I'm telling you, man.
Okay, so I see where we're going.
Well, you know what?
Whoa. You know I love you, brother. You know I love you.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and finish. Go ahead and finish.
We're on with the great Bruce Herron and the great invincible Vince Evans on our TR60 hotline on the Rewind Sports 60 WCPT 820 AM. One thing I have to share with you, Vince, is the fact that, and we appreciate you picking up the phone and joining us on this holiday weekend, Sunday, Labor Day, but you were a breath of fresh air and you were definitely ahead of your time because watching you quarterback the Chicago Bears back in the day, man, you had an incredible arm for a cannon as an arm, but your legs, man, you had sprinter speed as well, and you would do very well in this era today for sure, because your instinct on the football field, you knew when to find. Was it James Watt out there as far as your receivers, or James Scott? You were able to find your receivers when you needed to find them? Or you say, hey, I got to take off and I got to do whatever I can. And we loved it, but it seemed like back during that time, Vince, that black quarterbacks, you weren't a real quarterback if you ran, because you weren't a pocket passer. And I think it was like you had to fight that stigma. But nowadays, you see the boys, whether it's Patrick Mahomes or whether it's Deshaun Watson, they're playing the style of football you played way back in the day, man. What are your thoughts on what these kids are doing now and the paydays that they're getting?
They can get $500 million now.
Well, it's exciting to watch. It really is, and with great admiration do I watch these guys. You know, Deshaun and Russell and the kid there and Patrick Mahomes. They have such skill sets, and they're able to, with freedom, to utilize their athletic ability that they have, and it's the system has been set up that way for them to have that liberality to do things outside the pocket, because. You know, Bruce will tell you, you know, being on the defensive side, the minute that quarterback, you know, comes outside of the pocket, it throws off all of the defensive schemes that they have, you know, because from a defensive standpoint, they're taught to go to certain lanes on the field, and that's predicated on the quarterback taking a 3 to 5 to 7 step drop. But if he does anything to alter that in any way, like come outside the pocket, it throws all the systems off. And that's where you can, you know, see these guys make tremendous plays. So, you know, it was a beautiful thing to be able to play in the National Football League and to play for the Chicago Bears. You know, it was during a time where the coaches, I think at that time, it was something new for them. And I don't know that they really made the adjustments along the way, because their mindsets and their training had been predicated on the systems and the things that they have been taught. And so it was incumbent upon me to learn that system and try to adapt to that system the best that I could. But, you know, when the system broke down, I mean, I felt like that was the time to try to make a play. I mean, that's what we on the offensive side get paid for, is to make plays, and you know, be it with the arm or the legs, you just try to make things happen.
And you certainly did that. And again, as an young African American male growing up on the South Side in the city of Chicago, we look forward to watching you underneath center, you know, calling, you know, barking out the signals, man, because we knew something magical was going to happen, whether it's you, again, using your arm to hit your receivers, or if things broke down, you were going to use your feet. And, of course, you know, that's what we did in the Sandlot, or wherever we played, we wanted to emulate Vince Evans, man. And it definitely was a treat to watch you play. And to me, again, it's a shame, but all things happen for a reason, because these kids nowadays, and you mentioned, they're backing up the Brinks truck, man. They are backing up the Brinks truck as far as what's going on in the National Football League. Regarding our Chicago Bears, we talked about the two guys, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, Vince, who got the big payday. But our guy, who we moved up one slot for, and Bruce definitely voiced his opinion about that move. What were your thoughts on the Bears getting Mitchell Trubisky, and the fact that he is still fighting? Well, he's just was rewarded the starting job, but he still have to compete for the starting quarterback position for the Chicago Bears.
Well, I understood that the Bears had an opportunity to get Deshaun Watson and Mahomes, and you know, I'm sure that the organization, as well as many Chicago Bear fans around the country, are scratching their head on that situation. But again, that's decision that management and the scouting team decided to go with, and obviously they saw something in Trubisky that was going to fit in the scheme. I think he's got some talent. I think he was maybe thrown into the situation a little bit too soon. You could just feel like he wasn't completely ready. He's got some talent, like I said. And maybe now with the kid that they brought in as his backup, what's his name?
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. Maybe that will elevate his focus. Because when you have somebody that's breathing down your neck, and you know that if you are not on your game, that Nick will come in there and put that pressure on you. So maybe that'll boost his confidence up, or his focus, and maybe his play will be a lot better this year.
See, Vince, the name, this is the Rewind Sports 60, and we say real sports, real talk, just plain real. And I understand. You're trying to be diplomatic. You're trying to be PC, politically correct. Vince, you said it very well. The kid has some talent. Hey, Vince, I love you. And I respect you dearly. But I had some talent, too. But I didn't deserve to play in the National Football League, Vince. I didn't deserve to play in the National Football League because my talent level wasn't that high. I'm telling you. I know you have to be PC. You don't have to be. You choose to be. But this kid is not. He's reached his ceiling. And we just saw two guys who were passed over. Or who are locked in for the next 4 to 10 years with their respective clubs. Something's wrong, man, and I don't know what they saw. Real quick, in 10 seconds or less, man, what do you think the Bears saw in this guy that they wanted to move up one spot, give rid of the draft picks for this guy?
Well, again, he's got a strong arm. He's able to move outside the pocket. It doesn't necessarily mean that he has all of the attributes that it takes to be a top-level quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of guys that's got skill and got talent, but when you get on that level, the ability to go out there and make it happen is another intangible, but maybe that he hasn't reached yet. And that's why I want to give the kid the benefit of the doubt, like another year, just to see if a maturation process actually kicks in for him. Because I know he was, he came out of school early, I believe, and so he's really only been at that position for 2 years, and then he was hurt. So let's see how it pans out for him this year. I mean, and that's not to say, listen, the things that the Bears did to overshoot Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, I don't understand that. I don't understand that move, and I'm sure many people don't understand it now, looking back in retrospect. Yeah. Given the things that those guys have contributed at their particular teams. But again, they chose Trubisky. He's there. Let's see what he does this year, and see if there's some improvement that the kid can make.
We're on with former Bears quarterback Vince Evans. Vince, speaking about Trubisky being on his game, I believe you told the Undefeated that during the time that you came up, every single time you got in the game, you had to be damn near flawless, and that wasn't the case with your white quarterbacks. Speak to the discrepancy and how you were judged differently simply for the color of your skin back in that time and unfortunately in this time today.
Well, I'm going to take you back. I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to go back to the way that I was raised, okay? Because that was the catalyst that set the mindset for my thinking, not only on the professional level, but all the way throughout my life. I saw my mother and father, who were both educators. My mother was a home economics teacher. My dad was a principal and an industrial arts teacher. I can count on one hand the number of days in 35 years that they missed work. So they raised 4 young men. They were principled, orientated people. We had a regiment. We had discipline. And there was a structure in our household. I grew up doing segregation. I grew up doing integration. My parents always put in our minds that no one was better than you, and you were not better than anybody else. We were all part of God's creation, if you will. And so just taking that mindset, and mind you, all of my coaches, with the exception of, Art Shell with the Raiders, they were all white. And so basically, like when I was at SC, I used to get hate mail all the time, using the N-word. If you go out there today, we're going to blow your brains out, yada, yada, yada. But I grew up with that. I had an orientation that we had to sit up in the balcony at the movie theaters and separate bathrooms and all that. And so it while it was the culture that we grew up in was the way that it was, I had a mindset to say, okay, well, this is the way it is, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do.
Hey, Vince.
Vince.
Unfortunately, I got to cut you short because we're done in a matter of seconds, and we want to have you back. We want you to continue to share your story. We'll have you back next week if you're all good. My apologies, but we definitely want to hear more from you. The great Vince Simmons on our line. Bruce Herron, thank you so very much. 2 former Chicago Bears. It's been a pleasure. Yours truly, Jerry Riles, the marvelous one, Dan Marver, Lauren Cox, the Rewind Sports 60. Take care, everybody.
Okay, you too.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Lila.
And we're running to make a monster impact from Boulder, Colorado.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Johnson, and I'm running to make a monster impact all the way out here in Seattle, Washington.
Hi, we're the Chocobaloos.
Looking to make a monster impact from Washington, D.C. and Brooklyn.
I'm Katie, and I'm running to make a monster impact from Philadelphia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cayman Gray. I'm running to make a monster impact down from Houston, Texas.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm running to make a monster impact.
And I'm running to make a monster impact
from San Francisco, California.
I'm Justin, and I'm running to make a monster impact from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kenny. And we're running to make a monster impact in Chicago.
From Katy, Texas.
Seeing you guys, appreciate you jumping on this call. Reflecting on training camp, I think a lot of credit goes to the players, coaches, staff, just the ability to adapt during these times. I feel like everyone keeps on coming up with solutions, working together, which has been awesome to see. And honestly, that mentality starts with Matt and the way he approaches every day. It's positive first, it's solutions, not problems. That's genuinely who Matt is. We're really fortunate to have him as our leader during these challenging times. Guys, there's so many people behind the scenes that make things go that don't always get acknowledged. From Andre Tucker, our head trainer, Tony Medlin in equipment, Soup Campbell, player engagement, Simon Galan, football ops, even Flick Hospitality Group, who handles our cafeteria. Just a lot of creative adjustments from our staff with a solution-based mindset. I also want to recognize, I know it's been different for you guys, with just the challenges that it presents in regards to covering us on a daily basis. Just appreciate your flexibility during this whole time. I know we'll get into the quarterbacks, but I'd like to start by saying really proud of the way both quarterbacks competed through this camp, proud of the way they embraced the competition, but we're also great teammates through the entire process. I think that really speaks to the character of both Mitch and Nick. You know, we said from the beginning that the competition would be fair, the reps would be balanced. A lot of that credit goes to our coaches on how we accomplished balancing those reps. You know, at the end of the day, this is Matt's decision. I think yesterday he expressed to you guys why Mitch won the competition and why Mitch was named a starter. Mitch is playing with a lot of confidence right now. You can feel it in his comfort level in the offense and his command with the offense. I think Nick's also had a very good camp. And again, we just appreciate the teammate and the person that Nick is, just in regards to how he handled everything. We're lucky to have him as a Chicago Bear. You know, I think both quarterbacks benefited greatly from going against our defense every day. The focus a lot of the times is on the offense. I definitely understand that, but it's worth acknowledging how good we feel about our defense and the players and the coaches that we have on that side of the ball. So with that, guys, I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, we'll start with Pat Finley.
Hey, Ryan. First of all, thank you for doing this. We do appreciate it. Secondly, what what were you looking for from Mitch in camp? What did you see? What role did you play in, Matt told us about looking at film and all that. Now, I understand it's his decision, but where is your voice in that conversation?
Yeah, so the first thing was with Mitch is just, he had a good camp at, and then taking that into the regular season is obviously the objective. And I think overall his decision making, we felt like that's improving. And just as he builds, I think you feel his command and comfort level in the offense. That's real. Obviously, we've added a lot of pieces around him that I think are going to benefit when you talk about what we've done at tight end and receiver in the run game. And then as far as Matt and I going through the process, first of all, with our 80-man roster, Pat, we're constantly having personnel meetings. And then separately, we're having meetings with our college scouts and our pro scouts, which I think this year was important because you have unbiased opinions. Our college scouts weren't here for training camp, so they're just watching film from their homes. But specifically with the quarterback, Matt and I discussed it constantly. We share each other's thoughts. I would listen, I would be a sounding board, but this is strictly his decision. I think with Matt, kind of like how we do the draft, it's very collaborative. You take a lot of opinions, but at the end of the day, it's his call, and he made that call.
Adam Johns.
Hey Ryan, thanks for doing this. Kind of a two-part question here. What did you like about maybe the construction of the competition itself, especially when you guys learned that there'll be no preseason, like how it was scripted or just planned by the coaches? And then the second part of that question is, how would you maybe encapsulate the confidence that the organization has in Mitch after he's won this competition?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. With no preseason games, our coaches put so much thought, Adam, into how we could create competitive situations and situational football and put them in stress situations. And that went on throughout camp. And, obviously we had the two scrimmages, one here at Hallis and one at Soldier Field, but there was numerous other times in practice where they were really put into stressed situations. And it was cool to see both of them respond to that environment. So a lot of credit goes to our coaches with that. What was your second question, Adam?
Just the organizational confidence, the belief, the hope, like characterizing the hope that still goes along with Mitch. Like, where do you guys stand on that, if you could vocalize it?
Yeah, I think, Adam, just really proud. I know Matt talked about this too, the way he responded. Think if you put yourself in his shoes in the off season that he had, coming off last season where there was a lot of blame to go around last year. We could have been better in a lot of areas, and of course, being the quarterback, he takes the brunt of a lot of that. Then we trade for a quarterback, and then we don't exercise a fifth-year option, and all these things happen. And just really, the moment camp started, Adam, the moment he walked in the building, you just felt a different presence and a different mindset, and that carried him throughout camp. So just proud of the way he's conducted himself.
JJ?
Hey, Ryan, where does the potential decrease in next year's salary cap, it's been reported to be up to $23 million. How does that affect your long-term planning, and has that affected negotiations with Allen Robinson about a contract extension?
Yeah. Hey, JJ, it's, we're still working through some of the details and waiting on some of the details with the salary cap. We have an idea what the floor will be, JJ. And, once we're given those parameters, look, the whole league's operating under the same rules. And as we always do, I got a lot of confidence in Joey Lane as we work through that. There's some curveballs, but we're confident we'll work through it. And, that's not going to prevent us from doing the things that we want to do.
Jason?
Ryan, if the goal is to go into the season competing for a Super Bowl, how close do you think your roster is to that?
Hey, Jason, every year we have championship expectations, and this is no different. I think it's exciting this week because it's starting. I think what's unique is, the circumstances of this season. But I think when you look, I feel our players and our staff, I really feel like we can excel in this environment because of the people that we have, the continuity that we have. So our expectations are championship expectations, and they are every year.
Dan?
Ryan, you guys obviously were successful, as was the entire league, in sort of navigating the training camp portion of things with the pandemic going on. as you shift forward now and introduce games and travel, what are the big new challenges that will come into the equation this week?
Yeah, I mean, especially going on the road week 1, Dan, we've really streamlined our travel party, so it's a much smaller group on how we're doing this, how we're traveling when it comes to the planes and the hotels, having most of our meetings here at Hallis because we've created a safe environment here. Yeah, those are challenges. We feel like the league's given us a lot of protocol, a lot of guidance to help us through this, but a lot of that responsibility falls on each individual club, wearing your mask and the social distancing and things of that nature. But yeah, I know it's going to be fluid along the way, but thus far, I think we've done well. We're confident, but we can't let our guard down as we get into this portion of the season.
Hub?
Hey, Ryan, appreciate you taking time on the holiday and hope everybody's well on your end. You mentioned not having your scouts in Lake Forest and helping with your roster. How did having no preseason, no exhibition games, the inability to get your scouts on the road and see the other 31 teams impact your considerations once you cut down as far as maybe working the waiver wire and how you built your practice squad?
Yeah, I think a good question. It was different this year, to be honest. It made it more difficult. I think, we relied on our college grades a lot on a lot of these guys. We were able to capture anytime a team was, streamed their practice. We obviously captured that and watched that and just got really creative on how we were gathering that information. You saw a lot less claims this year. If you look at the average claims per year compared to this year, it went down a lot. But I think, just relying on our scouts, our previous pro grades, our college grades, being creative with how we were kind of watching other teams from afar, that all played into it. And then constant dialogue with our scouts along the way. I mean, we were constantly having Zoom meetings. Now, our pro scouts are here at Hallis Hall with us, but our college scouts are scattered all over. So constantly having Zoom meetings with them, updating them on our own roster, and then just talking about rosters around the league.
Colleen?
Hey, Ryan, where is David Montgomery in terms of his readiness for week 1? And what's your assessment of the run game and kind of the depth in that room without him?
Hey, Colleen, in regards to injuries, I'll let Matt get into that later this week, but I think we feel good about our running back room. I've said this before, they all bring a different skill set. They're all different. They all complement each other really well. So we feel really strong about that room, all 4 of them. Including Artavis Pierce on the practice squad. So it's a good room with a different skill set. They all offset each other. We're looking forward to seeing that unfold.
Brad?
Hey, Ryan, I'm curious how you feel about your depth at the cornerback position. And I know you want to let Matt handle the injuries, but do you have any level of concern about Robert Quinn? Maybe not getting into what the situation is, but he seems like he's probably practiced less than almost anyone on your roster.
Hey, Brad. Yeah, depth at corner. First off, obviously we know we have in Fuller, and then Buster's a proven player in this league, especially in the nickel spot. And both those guys had excellent training camps. It was really cool to see the 2 young draft picks come in and play the way they played. They played really well with Vildor and Jalen Johnson. So it's neat to see where they're at. I think both those guys, especially with no offseason, Brad, just their football IQ, their professionalism, they made plays throughout camp. I think both those guys have gained the confidence of their teammates around them. We also have some flexibility at our safety position. A lot of those safeties can play nickel for us, so that gives us some versatility. I think versatility is going to be big this year in the season that we're heading into. In regards to Robert Quinn, he's such a vet, Brad. He's, obviously he's one of our more experienced players. The best thing he does is get after the quarterback and rush the passer. So it's not like, there's a ton of X's and O's necessarily with some of that, just get off the ball and bend the corner. But we feel good about where he is from knowing our defense, even if he has had a little bit of a shortened training camp.
JD?
Hey, Ryan, can I take it back to the quarterback for a second, please? You've invested, not you personally, but the organization has invested a lot in Mitch with the second overall pick and everything. Can you take us through maybe what your emotions were like going through this competition, knowing that there was a chance that if Nick beats him out, Mitch opens the year as a backup, and that obviously isn't going to reflect well on the organization just because of where Mitch was drafted. So what were you really feeling like going through watching all this transpire?
Hey, JD, the question, it's a good question. And I can say this with complete honesty. It was easy for me to watch this unfold because all I wanted what was best for the team. Ultimately, all that matters, Jeff, is that we win football games. That's all that matters. So what quarterback gives us the best chance to win football games? Everybody had a voice, everybody had an opinion, but at the end of the day, Matt needed to go with his gut, with his heart, with his instincts, and just letting that whole thing play out naturally. And for me, it was a fair, balanced competition. But in my head, the entire time was what's best for the Bears, what's going to give us the best chance to win football games.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Ryan. There's a general notion out there that the quarterback performance this year will be a referendum on your tenure as GM as much as any aspect to date. Specifically, as you can address that, how fair is that?
I mean, I know the quarterback gets a lot of the focus, and understandably so. It's probably the most important position in sports. I'm proud of our entire roster beyond quarterback, and I think Mark, we'll see. The season's right ahead of us, but I like our quarterback room right now. I love that Nick Foles is here. Obviously, we're high on Mitch, but I like our quarterback room right now, and I think we're fortunate to have both those guys.
Dion?
The question I really have, Ryan, is personally, was there a sense of relief that Mitch won this job? And do you have a different confidence in him as the starter, having seen him navigate not only this competition, but some of the off-season things that he had to deal with?
Hey, Dion, there wasn't relief at all. The whole time, honestly, I just wanted what was best for our team. So I guess I had relief once Matt had clarity on the decision that he wanted to make. So whatever way it went, I just wanted Matt to have clarity and confidence in that decision. So once I realized Matt had come to that, it was okay, let's roll. We're talking about a lot of other issues with our team. I do think, Dion, that Mitch, whatever word you want to use, calloused, hardened, whatever it is, Mitch naturally, as a young player that's gone through what he's gone through, I think he's naturally gained a lot of that, which you can see it and I mean this in a good way. It's not like he's walking around here mad all the time. It's just more of a kind of a focused, calloused feel to him that I think you need to play quarterback in this league, not just in Chicago, but to play quarterback in the league in general. I think he's developed a lot of that.
Pat?
Hey, Ryan, why weren't Khalil Mack's statistics better last year? And I know we hear from coaches all the time that sacks aren't the end-all be-all, but if you could answer that, and what is your faith that he will be more impactful this year?
And I think it was a collection of things. I think it's complicated to answer it because I think the injuries we had on defense really affected him. I think when Akeem's injured and Roquan's injured or Trevathan and different things we're going through with our defensive line, I think it affects Khalil, and the attention. He's always going to have a lot of attention on him, but even more when that happens. I can't speak enough about the offseason that he's had, the way he's approached this training camp, the shape he's in right now. I kind of laughed at myself when he did the interview with you guys on the Peloton, but that's how he is all the time. It's constantly what can make him a better football player. So when he's not here, he's investing in his body, whether it's, private chefs and massage therapists and additional workouts, and talk about a guy who's obsessed with being the best. That's him to a T, and it affects our whole team.
Chris Emma?
Hey, Ryan, just to clarify with Allen Robinson, do you anticipate a deal will get done? And do you look at this week as kind of a deadline to get a deal done?
Hey, Chris, I don't see this week as a deadline. I know this is the generic answer on all this, but when we work on these deals, and look, we know how important A-Rob is to us, and not just as a player, but as a teammate. But again, those things are going to remain behind the scenes as we work through that process.
Jason?
Ryan, it looks like the last few years your blueprint has started with that pass rush, and especially the money that you guys put into Quinn this year. Why have you prioritized that above everything else? Why do you think that's the way to win?
I think Jason, it all starts with affecting the quarterback. Hitting the quarterback, getting after the quarterback, affecting his timing, and makes your whole defense better. It's a passing league. I think if you hit the quarterback, your corners are better, your safeties are better, and it's just such a valued position. It's a hard position to find. You usually got to draft it really high, or you got to pay it in free agency. And it's a really valued position. I think when you take the pass rush that we have, not just with the two outside linebackers, but our interior pass rush too, and you couple that with guys that have ball skills in the secondary. So, our safeties, our corners, including the rookie, our nickel, all those guys have ball skills. So if you're hitting a quarterback, those balls are going to get thrown up. And I think there's a lot. We used to always talk. I remember Coach Payton used to always say this: what's the risk at throwing at this corner? Because if they don't have ball skills, what's really the risk? It's going to be a completion, incompletion, or pass interference. Well, as we've loaded up the secondary with guys that have ball skills, with a defense that can generate that kind of pass rush, that can equate to a lot of turnovers.
We got time for a couple more. Adam Johns.
Hey, Ryan, you mentioned the tight ends earlier. For a guy who's known Jimmy Graham a long time, what was it like watching him this year in camp in person for the first time in a long time? Like, what can you envision him doing this season? And then the second part of that is Cole Kmet. What did you see from your first pick this year?
Yeah, with Jimmy, it's awesome to have Jimmy here. I mean, I remember when we drafted him in the very first practice, he was kind of a raw basketball player. The very first practice is one of those deals where you knew immediately, right away, first practice, like this guy's going to be different. But to have him here now at a different point in his career and feel like his leadership and the kind of teammate he is, it's been awesome. Like his veteran presence in the locker room has been outstanding. And honestly, we needed that on our team. And then to see him get past that, now we're talking about the physical skill set and what he's done in practice. And you guys saw it when you were out there, just how well-rounded he is. I honestly think like he's improved as a blocker as his career's gone on. He goes hard every day. You almost got to protect him from himself because that's his mindset. But we're lucky to have him right now, and I think he had a great camp. And then Cole Kmet might be one of the more intelligent rookies, football intelligent rookies that we've ever been around. And you felt it right away. And he's just such a well-rounded tight end that can do a lot of things in a lot of areas. He already, his teammates have embraced him because of the personality that he has. But I feel like how quick he picked up the offense, and then how his football intelligence, and then just how well-rounded he is, it's going to be an awesome asset for us to have.
And last one, Stacey Dales.
Hey, Ryan, you mentioned a couple of things that impressed you with Mitch, the decision-making, and I would put command and comfort together. Could you elaborate on that? Maybe some specific examples of how you saw that in a condensed training camp with the no preseason games, obviously.
Yeah, Stacey, I think, when we would, when Matt would create different situations on offense, I see your dog in the background. When Matt would create the different situations on offense, whether it was 2-minute or hurry up or blitz periods, just how Mitch was handling that pressure, I thought was impressive to see. The tempo that he operated with, getting out of the huddle, the things that he was doing off the field, in the meeting rooms, around his teammates. There's just a feel of confidence and comfort is the best way to say it, Stacey. And I think it comes year 3 in this offense. I think competition brings the best out of everybody, and I think this competition brought the best out of him. I think Nick is such a good teammate, Stacey. So some of the things that he's learned from Nick, not just on the football field, but in the meetings and around the building, I think Mitch has embraced that as well. So it's just a combination of things.
All right, thanks everyone. That's all we have time for today. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Lila.
And we're running to make a monster impact from Boulder, Colorado.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Johnson, and I'm running to make a monster impact all the way out here in Seattle, Washington.
Hi, we're the Chocobaloos.
Looking to make a monster impact from Washington, D.C. and Brooklyn.
I'm Katie, and I'm running to make a monster impact from Philadelphia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cayman Gray. I'm running to make a monster impact down from Houston, Texas.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm running to make a monster impact
And I'm running to make a monster impact
from San Francisco, California.
I'm Justin, and I'm running to make a monster impact from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kenny. And we're running to make a monster impact in Chicago.
From Katy, Texas.
National Football League, and of course in Chicago. He goes by Duck Coach. He brought us our own Super Bowl some 35 years ago. He's on the TR60 hotline. He's Mike Ditka. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good, guys, but I don't have much power left on my phone, so.
Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll pay the bill and we have to pay it for you, Coach. But we appreciate you taking some time on this Sunday to come on board and join us. And I tell you, this world of sports that we know, Coach, has been turned upside down, inside and out, and who knows which way it's going to land. But we wanted to get you on our phone lines to talk with you, first and foremost, to see how you're doing, and secondly, get your viewpoint on what's transpired in the world of sports in 2020.
Well, sports is good. I mean, the athletes are bigger, they're better, they're faster. I mean, you look at everything that's going on. These guys are playing the game of football today, playing at a much higher level than we played, even though we had a lot of great players in our time, but it's completely different. It's the man's game.
Hi, Coach. This is Lauren Cox here. I wanted to get your insight on, I'm sure you probably heard about Brian Urlacher's, he's under fire for posting a meme criticizing the NBA players for protesting. When you saw or when you heard, and I'm not sure if you have, Urlacher's comments criticizing the NBA players for protesting, what were your thoughts on that?
I don't pay attention to that stuff. But Brian has the right to say what he wants to. If that's what he believes, and that's what he believes. I don't hold that against him. I just think that, guys who are playing in special sports got a heck of a deal. They're making a heck of a lot of money. I would just enjoy it.
Another question for you. We just had a caller who called in, Rick, and he talked about the NBA protesting, and he said that he wished that they could protest in another way. And I wanted to ask him, and I didn't get a chance to, but I'll pose it to you. What way would be comfortable, or what do you think, if you have any thoughts on ways that you think that the players should protest?
So what do they protest?
Injustice, an African-American man getting shot 7 times in the back, and a gazillion others that get shot all the time unjustifiably by the police.
Do you think it's unjustified? I don't know, guys. I mean, you're talking about something now that you're pulling this out of the air. You don't know the circumstances. I don't know the circumstances. I don't agree with shooting anybody. But I don't know. I don't know how you would say it is right or wrong or otherwise. The police have a job to uphold law and order. That's their job. Now, do they make mistakes? Yes, they do. But I think if you look at the percentages, they do a pretty good job.
Coach, here's what the whole issue is. All right. Here's why the protestings are going on. Here's why players are boycotting. Here's why, not only in the National Football League, Major League Baseball, the NBA, and of course, the National Hockey League, soccer, the whole 9 yards. It's the fact that there are things that are occurring. Now, there are 75% of African American or minorities playing in the National Football League. 75% of the players in the NBA are African American or minority men. So they are the ones who are getting very well paid as far as what they're doing because of their talents and their skill set. But the other 99% of us, we got to earn a living, and we got to find a way to do that. So when the circumstances are not presented to you on a plain, even level playing field, and in some cases they end in death, the 1% that has made it out, the less than 1%, are saying, hey, you know what? We got to do something here, because for the grace of God, there go I. And that's the problem, Coach. These players who are making the money that they're making and on the stage and the platform that they're on are saying, hey, you know what? We have to represent the people who have not made it, who are still struggling. And this is a way for us to get our point across, get our message across. And for anyone who does not see that or understand that, it lends to bring about some pain. And that's the problem that these players have, and the community as a whole have, with management, people in authority, and people who make decisions aren't meeting at the table to try to come up with a solution.
Well, you're probably right. You know, there's some things you said there are probably right. I mean, I think they should work hard enough to. You know, pro sports is a tremendous thing. It pays a lot of people a lot of money. It's good for a lot of people. Enjoy it. You have a God-given talent. Not everybody has the talent to dribble a basketball, shoot a basketball, catch a football, or hit a baseball. You got a talent. Thank God for it. Enjoy it. And do it in peace.
No, so Coach, here's the deal. And I love you on with the great Coach Mike Dicker of your Super Bowl winning Chicago Bears, the 85 Bears, Super Bowl 20. Coach, here's the deal. You are an advocate. You are out front for the retired players who can't take care of themselves because of the game of football. You are very outspoken, and those players who can't speak for themselves, who either literally can't talk, their mental CTE, the mental capacity has diminished considerably, their bodies are broken down, and you're out front saying, listen, we need to take care of these guys because this sport has given us the livelihood that we have today. But unfortunately, there are players in the past, in your era, before your era, and after your era, who financially aren't prepared. They can't take it. Physically, they're breaking down. And you want to make sure that things are done right and properly for those guys because they paid the way. And that's what these athletes in this protest and these boycotts are doing. They said, listen, it's beyond us now. This is our community. What do you say to that? Because you're doing the same thing.
I'm not saying they're right or wrong. Listen to me. I don't know what they are, right or wrong. I know that they have a right to dignity. Everybody has a right to dignity. And if they don't think they're getting dignity, then you got a right to protest. But you make a lot of money, guys. You're making a lot of money. You can't make that kind of money doing anything else. You cannot make the kind of money you make in sports doing anything else.
No. Yeah, I agree.
Then I said it. That's it.
Okay.
So, be grateful. Enjoy the opportunity you got. Thank God. Every day when you wake up, thank God. Hey, man, I got great talent. I'm using them. I'm making a lot of money. I can take care of my family. Enjoy it.
Hey, Coach, this is Dan in the studio. Before your battery goes dead, I wanted to ask you quickly about the kneeling. I assume you feel the same way, that they have a right to...
I don't think it's right. I think it's a privilege to live in this country. I think our flag is a symbol of freedom and opportunity and all the good things. And I think I don't know why. The kneeling thing I don't understand, so I really shouldn't comment on it.
No, I understand, Coach, and that's the problem here, because we all, you live in this country, you've grown up, learning the national anthem and our pledge allegiance to the flag and all of that stuff. But, Coach, here's the difference here. Here's the big difference, and this is why we wanted to have you on to get your thoughts and get your perspective on what's affecting not only this great city that we live in, but this country that we live in and the world that we live in, Coach. And those players that you talked about, you had some fantastic players on that Super Bowl team, whether it's Walter Payton, Willie Gault, Mike Singletary, Otis Wilson. But listen, Coach, here's what we want you to understand and want others to understand, that as an African American man living in this country, playing in the greatest game in the world, in my opinion, playing professional sports and all the money that you make, at the end of the day, you still walk out of your door every single day as a black man, and you have to wonder what kind of racism I'm going to experience today because of the color of my skin. And that's the problem, Coach. The great Walter Payton.
Okay.
Coach.
I hear you.
Coach. So here's
That's the problem.
So how do we do it? Because, Coach, you didn't help the situation, Coach. And I love you to come on with us. But you didn't help the situation when you said, if you don't like this country, get the hell out of it. You didn't help. Oh, he hung up?
Oh, did we lose him?
Devin, call him back. Call him back.
Battery died.
Well, he did say his phone was going to die. But we got to talk the coach off the ledge and let him understand. It's bigger than playing again, the greatest sport in the world, in my opinion. That's the National Football League. I love it.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update, a weekly podcast. Yours truly, Jerry Riles and the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Doc, how are you?
Doing great, Jerry. Thanks.
Thank you so very much. Before we get done, I want to definitely wish you and your family a great Labor Day holiday weekend and a safe one as well.
Thank you so much, Jerry. You too. You know, it's going to be gorgeous, I think. Labor Day always seems like the weather's nice. I shouldn't say that, but so far.
No, I mean, we've been having some, as of this broadcast, this recording, the weather here in the Chicagoland area has been fantastic. And let's hope that this weekend continues to produce the same, of course, throughout the week. But the rain is always welcome because we can certainly use it for the lawns and the flowers and the gardens and everything. But all in all, it's a close to the summer. What an incredible summer here in 2020. And we're looking forward to the fall. And, as far as this year is concerned, the pandemic has really taken its toll, not only on the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, this great country we call the Grand US of A, but of course all throughout the country. And let's just hope that we can get everything under control. And, if there's a vaccine out there that can help the populations and reduce this thing, and hopefully we'll sooner or later get back to normal. As far as normalcy is concerned, the National Football League, Doc, is just around the corner. September 10th is the kickoff to launch the 2020 season. And, of course, our own Chicago Bears will be taking on the Detroit Lions September 13th. And teams are gearing up, getting down to the 53-man roster, the 16-man roster for the practice squad. And as far as Chicago is concerned, it's not football season until you talk what? Quarterback. And we, as of yet, have not been announced who the starting quarterback will be for the Chicago Bears. But we do have some news out of camp, and it's unfortunate news that our running back, David Montgomery, who was drafted last year as the Bears' first-round draft pick when they took the pick out of Iowa State, went down with a groin injury during practice. And I don't know if he had an opportunity to see the tape or anything, but it was just a basic, fundamentals routine, practice that the guys were going through. And he made a slight cut, planted his foot, took a spill, and he didn't get up. The coaches kind of eyed him, and then they went over to him to address him. And you saw as he got up, he certainly and definitely was limping. So now he is questionable for the start of this 2020 season. Tell us a little bit about groin injuries, because I'm sure you've experienced it over the years. I certainly have experienced groin injuries, and both men and women have suffered this groin injury. Tell us a little bit about it and how we can take care of ourselves and heal it.
Sure, it's an interesting injury, and it's a little complicated because that area is complicated. What a groin injury in common parlance means is a strain which is damage to some degree or another of the what are called adductor, so ADD-UCTOR adductor muscles. And without getting into all the anatomy, there are three main ones. So, the lingo is that an injury to a muscle or tendon is a strain. An injury to a ligament is a sprain. So you get an ankle sprain or a groin strain. So the adductor muscle gets injured. These are powerful muscles that bring the legs together. So they do scissoring motion. Now, before I go any further, let me say this. Again, I only know what I read in the papers, and that's what they've called it, and that's probably what it is. But the groin refers to the area kind of in the front of your crotch, and so I'm sure that's what it is. But that area is interesting because there's a lot of other things in that area. For example, there are what are called sports hernias, which is something we didn't used to hear about much years ago, but we do now. So you can have pain in the groin from a sports hernia. The abdominal muscles, so the groin or adductor muscles, they go all the way down to just below your knee, and then they go all the way up to it's a pelvic bone there, and they attach. So they attach from the bottom. Abdominal muscles attach from the top. So let's say it is a groin strain. So the one question is, as I've maybe mentioned before, we see groin strains, hamstring strains all the time, much more so than we used to when I was a kid. And why is that? So, not really the question at hand. My theory on this is that it has a lot to do with weightlifting. People just get tightly wired, basically. And, again, as I mentioned before, decades ago, too much weightlifting was thought to be a bad thing because you lose your flexibility. I think the thought is now you have to weight train to get strength and to get bulk. Running backs now, your basic NFL running back is 215 pounds. Back in the day, Gale Sayers, when he was drafted, was 198. Walter Payton played at 205. So they didn't have to be quite that big. And, Walter Payton used to run up and down that hill and was in the best shape of anybody. I don't know if he lifted weights, but he never, he only missed that one game because of his toe. So I suspect that maybe he didn't too much for his legs. So anyway, whatever caused it, he's got it. And what do you do for it? So it's interesting. And philosophies differ. And I'll tell you that in my opinion, so one thing has changed, and I don't know what they're doing with him, and I don't want to, throw stones if they're doing something different. But there was a time when people used to get anti-inflammatory pills all the time. When I was doing my fellowship, we were taking care of the Patriots in 1984-85. They were still using butazolidine, which was something that is no longer used because it was found to cause occasionally fatal aplastic anemia. But the ones that have taken its place are ibuprofen and Aleve, which is naproxen, Advil, Motrin, Celebrex, Meloxicam, all these. So what is often kind of promulgated weekend warrior-wise, and this is why I bring it up, because, forgetting the Bears, how about just your average person that gets one of these things? Those drugs, as I've mentioned before here, I think are very bad for a number of reasons. I think they're okay for an occasional headache or one thing and another, but they mask pain, and if you mask pain, you can damage yourself far worse. So I think that anything that masks pain where these things concerned is bad. They also significantly interfere with healing. And finally, they can be incredibly toxic. High incidences of feeding problems, kidney problems, liver problems. So anyway, I don't want to go on all day here, but I would say this to you. The most important thing you can do, my opinion, without question, is just leave it the heck alone. So that muscle is used to do various things. And one thing I will tell you for sure is that if it's sore and you do anything that causes pain, you're gonna make it worse. And the old no pain, no gain thing just is wrong. Basically Mother Nature does a pretty good job of healing this if you just leave Mother Nature alone. So, training staffs are ubiquitous, so people do stretching and strengthening and all kinds of other stuff. So let me tell you a few little facts. And icing, right? So would I recommend icing it myself? No, although he probably is because almost everybody does it. Stretching of it, I think, is particularly not a good thing because if you take something that's damaged and stretch it, I think you just damage it. And strengthening, if it hurts, I think is a bad thing. So in the world of sports medicine, I'm kind of a hands-off kind of guy. My feeling is Mother Nature does a great job of healing things. And unless I'm sure that I can do better than Mother Nature, I don't want to intervene. I employ physical therapists. I'm in that business. But for muscle strains and sprains, I don't do stretching. We don't do strengthening. There are modalities, ultrasound, muscle stimulation, which can take some of the pain off. But the first thing, Jerry, to do is just leave it alone, let it heal. We have two rules for people. We say don't do anything that hurts even a little, and don't take any kind of a pill or do anything that can mask pain so you don't re-injure it.
So, Dr. Chad Padroma, Sports Medicine Update. It's a weekly podcast. Talking about sports injuries, talking about groin injuries. The running back for the Chicago Bears, David Montgomery, is currently nursing a groin injury that he sustained last week in practice. You talk about just leave it be. You're not a big fan of taking the Advil or the Tylenol or anything of that nature, icing it down, or even wrapping it. So for the weekend warrior who's out there and may have this similar injury, what's the time frame? How long do you recommend they take time off and let this thing heal properly on its own?
So what I tell all my patients, recreational athletes, competitive athletes, professional athletes, is you just leave it alone, and you can start to train a little, maybe a stationary bike, but whatever you do, you have to have zero pain. And it can get better in days. It can stretch for months. There are reports, there was a soccer player, I can't think of his name, a few years ago, where it went on for a couple of years. And the problem, as we were talking about last week, is what do you do when you're a professional athlete, you're needed back, you've got this injury, there's tremendous pressure on the medical and the training staff and the athlete to do something to accelerate healing. And I'll tell you one way things have progressed. There was kind of an interesting anecdote circa 1996, I would say, in the Blackhawks, Chris Chelios. And again, I have no inside information. I just followed it in the papers, but I remember it well. So he had a groin strain, and the doctor for the Blackhawks then, whose name escapes me now, I think he has now passed away, very good doctor, apparently injected it with either lidocaine, novocaine to kind of numb it up so he could play, or cortisone, or maybe both. That kind of thing was done a lot in the 60s and 70s, probably less over time. And so what happened was, apparently, the novocaine, lidocaine in the shot, to make it not hurt, wound up infiltrating the nerve. There's a nerve in the area. The obturator nerve is probably the one. So it wound up doing a nerve block. So people have had surgery sometimes. Instead of going to sleep, a doctor will do this, an anesthesiologist. You inject the nerve for the area. I'm a shoulder surgeon. I actually don't like them, but most of my colleagues do. There's even some evidence now that, for example, with knee surgery, femoral nerve blocks were very common. They're still done, but when they've looked at these long term, they found that there can even be long term, minor weakness. Anyway, so apparently he was injected, and the novocaine. So the nerve runs through the muscle. So he was injecting the muscle, but the lidocaine spilled over into the nerve. And so what this does is it basically paralyzes the muscle. So the idea then, I think, was to shoot him up like right before the game, or whenever it was, to get him to play. But what happened was his leg, I think, became kind of limp and he couldn't play. So this whole thing devolved. It was kind of played out in the papers where there was so he wasn't playing, and then I think people were saying, well, why isn't he playing? And I think there was a story that ran around that he had personal problems, and I think he finally made a statement and said, hey, guys, I don't have any personal problems, and so eventually the story came out. And, nothing against the doc. There was no permanent harm. But I will tell you, these days, I don't think anybody injects a professional athlete with a pain-killing shot to get them to play. That was kind of the end of the era, more or less, where that was done. Because what can happen is, that muscle is causing you pain for a reason. And if you numb it so you can't feel it, and then you play, the muscle contracts. So this muscle would contract, can cause more damage. And, the last thing you want to do is take not only a professional athlete, but anybody, and take something that would have healed on its own, and then and do something where you can't feel the pain and you damage it further. So anyway, that's, I don't think anybody does. So let me say this to you. I don't think anybody these days would shoot somebody up before a game to send them in my business. But there are still cortisone shots being done into inflamed areas to make them better. And again, customs have changed. I don't ever use them because cortisone kills cartilage cells, it kills tendon cells, and I just don't want to be doing it. Now, there are people who will do it and say, well, you'll kill a few cells, but it's not a big deal. In fact, some people think that cortisone works partially when it works by killing the cells and killing the nerves in the area so it doesn't hurt. So I would say this to you, if you're a weekend warrior and somebody wants to do a pain-killing shot or a cortisone shot, I'm not saying it's wrong, and I think it's still done a fair amount, but I think it's a very bad idea. I'd never do it. We do PRP injections, platelet-rich plasma, I've mentioned before. Stem cell injections can help too, which are beneficial. I rarely do even those, though, just because usually you're just maybe accelerating the timeline by a little bit. PRP actually makes the area inflamed, so it gets more sore before it gets better. So, it's not going to get you better in a couple of days. Stem cells will get you better quickly, but and we have an offshore site where we do stem cells, advanced stem cell work, and we can do this work there. And people don't get inflamed, and they get better very, very quickly. But I can't do it in Chicago. It's very expensive, and I just don't think, if you're a high-priced athlete, getting better a week or two sooner might be worth paying for it and doing it. But in the general scheme of things, you just don't want to be doing that.
Hey, so Doctor, great information. Thank you so very much. When we talk about on the professional ranks in comparison to the amateur weekend warrior, a lot of guys in their, their late 40s, maybe even in the 30s, but definitely in their 40s and 50s on up, they look at the athlete, their favorite team, as somewhat godlike, and they're put on a pedestal here. And let's be honest, a lot of guys want to emulate, those guys that they kind of like look up to, and or try to relive those moments when they were in their teens and their 20s and think they can go out there and do that. So the question is, when you see a running back like David Montgomery going down with a groin injury, and as a professional athlete, the job is to get him out there on that football field as quickly as possible because he's valuable to the team and you need him healthy as opposed to not, meaning, you can't afford to rest him for a long period of time. There are a lot of guys out there I got a buddy who's in Las Vegas right now, and he's playing with, I believe, an independent baseball league, the Sin City Rebels, I think it's called, and he just turned 53 years of age, and he's trying to relive the moments, of course, when he was a youth playing baseball. But he sent out some pictures on his Twitter account, and he was icing down the knees and everything. These guys aren't going to just wait for their bodies to try to heal on its own. They're going to load up on whatever they can. How do you convince the average weekend warrior that, this isn't a good idea? And they're the ones who, in particular, should take their time and let their bodies just run the course and heal on its own.
So I'll tell you, it's a great question. Great question. And in this business, it's a tricky question. So I'll tell you something for whoever's listening or viewing this. I wrote an essay called No Pills, No Pain, and it's on our website. So our website is ismoc.net. So anybody who's interested, if you go to our website and there's a link, it says No Pills, No Pain. It lays out the whole argument for it. And it plays out like this in my practice, Jerry. People come in and they want me to do something. And to tell you the truth, the people who are the most, I don't know what the word would be, the most convinced, the most stubborn, really, in many cases, about wanting me to do something, tend to be the high school athletes. Because often, they're looking at doing something in college. Often there are parents involved. So I will get somebody with an injury and I'll say, look, you just have to leave it alone. And it's like, do something. And sometimes I'll be the second or third opinion, and I might be the second of five or whatever. So let me tell you some interesting things. It's in this treatise. It's kind of what I was just saying. So a few other interesting things. Talk about ice, right? So everybody ices. You look at the NBA and look at the players on the Bulls or whoever. They're all icing. And the Bulls doc's a friend of mine. He's a great doc. So he authorized it. I think it's okay, but I don't recommend it. And the reason is, so there isn't a single study ever done that shows that icing helps anything heal quicker. And you know, the pitchers with their shoulders, all that kind of stuff, right? I don't think it's a good idea. We use ice, and I've mentioned this before, after surgery. We put ice packs on people, and actually ice is a great painkiller. So when we use ice, people don't need very much in the way of pain pills, but it's numbing it. And it's just not a good idea to numb things. So it goes like this. People say, well, you decrease the inflammation. By decreasing the inflammation, you do something good. But do you? Do you really do something good? Do you help things heal quicker? So we've actually researched this formally at our foundation, and there was no evidence that putting ice on things makes you heal any quicker. But there is tremendous pressure. So and this is not just ice. This is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So I don't recommend Motrin, Advil, Aleve, diclofenac, meloxicam, any of that stuff. I don't recommend ice. I don't recommend Icy Hot or Bengay. I don't recommend kinesio tape, lidoderm patches. Lidoderm patches, these patches, right? They're popular. So they numb the nerve. Well, you know what happens? The nerves don't like being numbed. So you get better for a while, but there are many reports of the nerves coming back stronger with a vengeance and overcoming it and becoming hypersensitive. So what has happened in our culture, I think, is very bad. And a lot of it's commercially driven. And I don't begrudge pharmaceutical companies from doing this. That's what they do. But the commercials where they show somebody, good-looking person out for sports and something hurts, and they say, don't let it slow you down, take a pill and get back, it just makes me cringe. Because there's no greater way to really hurt yourself than to take a problem where your body's telling you to take it easy, mask the symptoms, and go back. So to answer your original question to me here, what do I tell people? I tell everybody what I'm telling you. And here's what happens. The majority of the time, when I say these drugs interfere with healing, which they do, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So minor anecdote, I'm sort of a boutique surgeon. All I do is fix knees and shoulders arthroscopically. The most common thing I do is fix rotator cuffs. So there was a paper where they gave tramadol, which is a weak narcotic, and ibuprofen, and Celebrex after rotator cuff surgery. So any surgery can fail. There's a finite failure rate. So the tramadol, which is kind of a standard drug, had a 4% failure rate after a year. The ibuprofen had an 8% failure rate, twice as high. The Celebrex had a 37% failure rate, 7 times higher. Almost all those people needed repeat surgery, right? So, and I could go on, but these drugs interfere with healing. So I don't think they should ever be used in the setting of an acute injury. I just had a patient today, without getting into all the details, who came in with a knee problem yesterday, went to an emergency room. They took 100 cc's of blood out of his knee, red blood. It's pretty unusual. And they gave him, not to throw stones, but they gave him ibuprofen. Well, ibuprofen is a major blood thinner. Makes you bleed. So he came in today, his knee was full of blood again. Drained it again, but said, don't take this stuff. So what happens is most of the time when I go through this, people tell me, they say, I didn't want to take that stuff anyway, and they're happy to not take it. Some of the people are insistent, and I tell them, look, that's my perspective. It's what I think is best for you. But I'm not the only sports medicine guy in town, and people are certainly welcome to find somebody else. But I feel very strongly about it. I probably feel most strongly about it with the adolescents because they're the ones that have the most to lose. But I will tell you this point of view, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs used to be prevalent, not so much, because the players' agents know that these things, can cause ulcers, can cause all kinds of problems. It comes down to this, Jerry. You have to not care if the patient, as a physician, we like to take care of people. We like it when people come back and have faith in us, but you have to just do the right thing and not care. And if you've got a gig as a team doctor for a team, These are sort of prestigious. These days they're paid for. The doctors and the hospitals pay for them. But you've just got to not care. And actually, I used to be team physician at a lot of places, professional, college, high school. I mentioned one of these other weeks, stopped doing it. It was just time consuming, particularly after I got married and had a family. I just didn't want to be running around the games anymore. And it's actually much nicer for me to be independent because people come to me independently and there isn't any pressure from ownership, from the coaches, all of which I've experienced, by the way, to send people back. So, if you have to miss time, you have to miss time. If it cuts into your scholarship time, it does. It's bad, but I think the alternative, which is to mask pain and bring people back, is far worse.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Lila.
And we're running to make a monster impact from Boulder, Colorado.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Johnson, and I'm running to make a monster impact all the way out here in Seattle, Washington.
Hi, we're the Chockabaloos.
Looking to make a monster impact from Washington, D.C. and Brooklyn.
I'm Katie, and I'm running to make a monster impact from Philadelphia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cayman Gray. I'm running to make a monster impact down from Houston, Texas.
Hi, I'm Natalie.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm running to make a monster impact.
And I'm running to make a monster impact
from San Francisco, California.
I'm Justin, and I'm running to make a monster impact from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kenny. And we're running to make a monster impact in Chicago.
From Katy, Texas.
Me out to the ball game, Hall of Famer Andre Dawson.
All right. Let's hear it from the greatest fans ever. On three. 1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back Forest Root. Root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey, let's get some runs. Thank you.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.